This would be a massive mistake for the Philadelphia 76ers. As the NBA offseason hits in full swing, every team is evaluating some key roster decisions. And for the Philadelphia 76ers, reports have surfaced that Kyle Lowry is expected to return, coming back for his 20th NBA season and coming back to the Sixers team next year. I love Kyle Lowry. He's an NBA and a Philadelphia legend. But there is a time where every guy has to hang it up, and I do think we are at that point with the Lowry experience here. Going to dive into exactly why I think that is the case for the Sixers roster, taking a look at how he fits in, the guard rotation, all these types of conversation, and a couple other thoughts on the offseason as a whole. Now, fully into things here, do want to remind you guys, as always, to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. At this point in time, only 31.1% of you guys watching these videos have subscribed to us here at Sixers Digest just yet. We're going to be breaking things down from every single angle this offseason, so make sure you're along for the ride, and that is the best way to help support us. So appreciate you guys tuning into this video. And to get into the topic of today, do want to start off with this report from Keith Pompey. Shout out to Philly Sixers Galaxy for tweeting it out. And he says there's an expectation that Kyle Lowry will return next season per at Pompey on Sixers. Quote, that is the expectation. At the conclusion of the season, the 39-year-old expressed his desire to play one more season, and the former Cardinal Daughtry and Villanova standout specifically wants to do it with his hometown Sixers. Now, this has been sort of my thoughts on this as a whole, as I do believe Kyle Lowry came to Philadelphia with the intention of riding off into the sunset, making the best impression, playing for his hometown team, and obviously that did not come together last year whatsoever. That I think last year, if it had gone correctly, if there was a legitimate NBA team, a team that made a little bit of playoff noise and was at least in the mix here, that I do think Lowry would be able to retire satisfied there. But that is not how things played out, and I think he wants one more chance to rewrite things. I do respect that. I do respect him as a basketball player quite a bit. To kind of highlight, you will find very few basketball players with a basketball reference page that makes you put the font this small to fit it all on screen. You will find very few basketball players who've had such an impressive turnaround, such as in his rookie season, 5.6 points per game, at age 27, 0 All-Stars, 0 Finals appearance, to at age 36, and now 37, a 6-time All-Star, an NBA Finals champ, 2 finals trips, a franchise legend there over in Toronto. He is a guy that I have, once again, a great deal of respect for. Basketball Reference in itself gives him an 85% chance at making the Hall of Fame there. Did it here in Villanova. Also had the same Spanish teacher as Kyle Lowry, so shout out to Senor Spicer there. But with Lowry specifically in regard to the Sixers team, there's got to be some tough decisions made. And I think everything that I think is fair to point in the positives for him, that he can be a great mentor to Jared McCain, that there is some real value in having him teach another smaller guard like the ins and outs of this game, specifically defensively. Lowry's a guy who, despite being small of stature, has found a way to make a very positive impact at the NBA level when guarding guys that are consistently way bigger than him. Now, obviously, different body types between McCain and Lowry, that there's some significant strength on Lowry that we have not quite seen, although McCain is pretty well built as well, particularly his legs. You can see the way that he can dig in there and get to the paint there. So maybe that is possible if there is some influence. But I also think it's a little naive to just believe that, like, watching the guy work every day, that directly translates. Some guys are built like that, and I do think Jared McCain soaks it in like a sponge as much as you could hope. Even in the offseason, we're seeing all these kind of behind the scenes with some pretty funny clips of McCain and Lowry on FaceTime and things like this. This coming directly through the NBA, as McCain was an NBA correspondent from a media perspective during Game 1 of the NBA Finals here. But it does all bring back to the point of this. I do think the Sixers 100% have to maximize every single roster spot that they have a chance to do this year. And when looking at it as a whole, they don't have this crazy flexibility. To take a peek at the salary cap table and look at the guys under contract, currently there are already 13 players under contract. One of those being a 2-way contract in Alex Reese, which doesn't exactly count the same way here. But when running down the list, Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre with a player option but widely expected to be back, Andre Drummond with a player option and pretty much certain to be back, Jared McCain under contract, Eric Gordon, a player option, which we can bookend that. That's a little bit of an interesting conversation, but it has been reported by Keith Pompey as well that the expectation is he will be back. Lonnie Walker, a club option, kind of an interesting one there. We'll table that as well. Jared Butler, we can table. Ricky Council, non-guaranteed. We will see about that. Justin Edwards, a club out option, certain that he is back. Dembona, he will absolutely be back. This is a fairly full roster to this point. So even with the ones we tabled, which in that conversation is 4, we're talking about 8 roster spots guaranteed locked up. Quentin Grimes, not on this list as he's a restricted free agent. He will be back on the Sixers team. That makes 9 right there. Number 10, whoever they pick with that third overall pick, unless they end up trading around, or what if they trade down and that comes with a Herb Jones trade, or maybe they trade up and we're having these conversations. That gets us to double digit. That's 11 right there. Then the second round pick at that 35th selection, who are they drafting? Then we're talking about 12. That's now 3 roster spots that you have remaining, and you want to use 1 on Kyle Lowry for sure. My only pushback would be, and once again, I get everything he brings from a value perspective, a leadership perspective, a winning mentality perspective here, but none of that matters if this team cannot play high level enough basketball. And just to put the numbers as the numbers, that last season, Kyle Lowry, at age 38 years old, averaged 3.9 points per game, 2.7 assists, and 1.9 rebounds, shot 33% from 3, 35% from the field. 93.1% of his threes are assisted, and 75.2% of his shots are all threes. That is the story of him at this point, is he's no longer capable of beating guys off the dribble. He isn't even fully capable of doing some of the annoying Kyle Lowry stuff that have been the book on him from years. And by that I mean the pick up 94 feet, the get under somebody's skin here. He's just old, and there's nothing wrong with that. That happens to every single player, every single person, we hope. That's a far better outcome there. But there is a stage where you got to hang him up, and I kind of feel like that's where we're at with Kyle Lowry. I think there should be a legitimate conversation about what is your interest level in being an assistant coach next year. We saw the games in which he did not play, where he had a nice Coach Lowry taped across the chest here. I would love that. I would fully support that. I think that would be an awesome move, and I honestly think Kyle Lowry will be an awesome coach when he does get that opportunity, which I do fully expect. But I don't see a world in which this Sixers team, which has been widely expressive this offseason, Daryl Morey himself in his first postseason presser, speaking about how they got to get younger, they got to get more dynamic, they got to get more athletic. None of that is backed up by bringing back Kyle Lowry for his 20th NBA season. I love Kyle Lowry once again. Wish him the best. Happy that he came to Philadelphia and would fully support him being back as the Sixers assistant coach. But if one of their 15 roster spots is used on him to return to the Sixers team, that is just a massive oversight and just not utilizing the roster to the fullest extent. You already have Tyrese Maxey. You already have Jared McCain. We could be talking about VJ Edgecombe. We could be talking about Dylan Harper here. You already have likely Quentin Grimes. That's a lot of guards already that we have. Like, Lowry is not going to play next year, even under the best of circumstances. So if those are the best of circumstances, get a guy that's going to be pushing for minutes a little bit more there. That is my overall thoughts on things. I do hope Kyle Lowry and the Sixers can come to some sort of an agreement. I would love for him to be an assistant coach on the Sixers team. But I do think that if he is one of those 15 finite roster spots that the Sixers have to work with, it would be an oversight for how much you need to value, or how much they aren't valuing each spot there. So let me know what you guys think on that overall. As you as fired up as I am, that I just cannot see a world in which Kyle Lowry can help this basketball team. I do think that is a totally fair conclusion to come to based on what we've seen from him at this stage in his career. All respect to him. Heck of a career to this point. One of the more accomplished NBA players that we've seen. An underdog story straight from Villanova. You can run down everything with Kyle Lowry, but I think we've seen enough of him and his Sixers experience. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. And one more time, doing remind you guys as always to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. 68.9% of you guys watching these videos have not subscribed just yet. It helps us out a ton here on Sixers Digest, so appreciate each and every one of you guys. We're going to keep powering through every news that we'd have to get into this offseason, so make sure you're tapping along. I'll be right back. Talk with you next time. Peace.